What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with a remix of DJ Quicksilver's Free. Indeed, I just reacted to the club mix, and I think both the original mix and the club mix are done by Quicksilver, which I'm going to guess at this point, it's still early enough. There's a bunch of releases that come after this, although I do have to point out I made a mistake. Time Rider comes from 98. I have 3 records of his. 2 of his from 97, Free and Planet Love, and then Time Rider is actually 98. But yeah, I think at this point De Donatis is still involved in the project. Eventually, as I mentioned in the reaction to the club mix, he left and it just became a solo Orin project. Nevertheless, we're going to listen to the JDS remix, which I never paid much attention to. Again, when I got this back in the day, I keyed in on the club mix, and that was the one I used. Played it at a few parties. I talked about this during the reaction to the club mix. And even now, I think it sounds really good. There are parts of it that I like better than others, but I do give it like a solid B+. Yeah, I think it's a really good trance tune with a classic 90s feel, even if I think there are others that perhaps surpass it. So, I think it's still a top tune, but, as I mentioned in that reaction, when I pulled this record out a couple weeks ago, I just listened to the whole thing. I've been going through some of my catalog, like, oh man, I haven't used this in years. Like, I should, use this in a trance mix, and, let me see which version I'm going to use. And so I listened to the whole record, and, the original mix is better than I remembered it. I still think the club mix is better than the original, but both other remixes, the JDS one we're going to listen to here, and the Distant Drum mix, are fantastic, probably better than the club mix, even though I never paid much attention, and both of them have more acid than the club mix, which, acid was the first thing I wanted to spin. Again, I was acid trance, acid techno, I wanted to spin both. It was hard to find vinyl in the early days in both of those genres for me, but the point is, it's weird that I never got into this mix, so I'll make up for it now. What little I do know about JDS, it's a duo from the UK. I think they had a track in 97 that was particularly big. I'm forgetting the name of it. And I think a lot of their tracks have breakbeat, even though it's, generally like trance, maybe a bit of house, but mostly trance with breakbeat. But it's JDS without any periods. It's not an acronym. When there are periods and it's an acronym, it's when they do happy hardcore. And I think they actually have another alias where they do like a different style. So it's a duo that does some different things, or at least did back then. But as far as I know, this is the only track I have by them, or the only remix. So let's get it. This is DJ Quicksilver Free, and it's the JDS remix, included on the Positiva version of this release, 1997.
Let your mind be free.
Hear that like old school rave vibe, or like Prodigy or something. I like the slide of that. Galloping bright and shining acid.
Let your mind be free. Let your mind be free.
So we hear that melody, which comes in third. But in the club mix is what I was going to say. That's the last melody to arrive in the club mix. It's the first one to come in here. This particular acid idiot is the guy who did Nuclear High, Mark Steinmeier, had another project called Scope. It sounds like this. midnight in the trance party indoor sort of tune. Yeah, when I pulled this record out a couple weeks ago, it was like, this is the one that really caught my ear. Obviously, if you're mixing out, you want to be well on your way by this point, if not already completely out. Although that sort of ping-pongy rhythm, you can carry that over a long double drop, and there's still a reason to include it. But I've always talked about, like, if it gets to the last, like, let's say 64, and it's literally just a kick and a hat, or an offset clap, it's like, it could be any track, and there's no real reason to, like, prolong the double drop. But if there's a vocal, if there's a synth still sort of floating over it, then you can, keep hanging the outgoing track over the new one. But in any case, like I said, it's a different kind of tune. Obviously, it doesn't even really have that big piano melody. It sort of does, like, a completely, like, minimized version of it in the last part of the tune. But I also like the reconfigured Desperate melody, like primarily in that breakbeat section in the middle. So yeah, I think it's a cool version. I would use that maybe as a set starter. I think it would be a good set starting tune. The way, you know, again, if you're going to go into like more proper trance, you know, and you're going to have a track that also has breakbeat, I would say try to do that one first and then just, you know, kind of go on into like a proper trance mix. Now, sometimes you could keep, you know, there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of tracks or a lot of sets over the years where like a lot of the tunes will mix, you know, like a breakbeat section or like a down tempo section, but yeah, personally, I would use that at the beginning of a set. We'll go through the Diss and Drum remix at some point, probably not in this session, but at some point also, as I said, we'll go through Planet Love. Wow, my brain and my mouth cease to work sometimes. But yeah, Planet Love is maybe my favorite, although, you know, if you saw my reaction to the club mix, you'll know I have conflicted feelings about it because I think part of it is really fantastic, but then it has this other element to it that's not my favorite. It's a bit like overly rich in my mind, or to my mind. Nevertheless, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Do let me know what you think of this version. I will see you next time. Peace.